Gentlemen, welcome to Epic Flail. Today we are talking Old World. I'm joined by two of my good friends, Rob and Liam, who both bring very interesting perspectives to this discussion. A lot of people like us to get straight to the content, but I'm hoping and thinking that an Old World crowd, you want something a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more gentlemanly, one might say. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend a bit of time chatting through a few subjects on today's show. It's going to be nice and chill. It's going to be nice and relaxed. We're going to be joined by some of our wonderful members, so thanks to those of you that are jumping on board. If you want to be a member and support the channel, then check out the link below in the description. There's all the details on there of how you can become a member, get on our Discord, and get extra content from the channel. On today's list of agenda items, gentlemen, I have the following, and you can both, once I've gone through this list, nod and go concur to officially sign it off. One.
Sounds good.
I didn't say you could speak yet, Rob. When I finish, say nod and concur, okay? Current Old World speed of releases. We're going to talk about what's going on. We've got all excited and said all these things were going to be coming out, but things seem to have slowed down. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about, I want to hear this story of the Screamer list that Liam played against, and it's going to bridge us into a discussion of what you do if you get to the table and you play one of these oppressive, fairly nightmarish lists. Liam has got some great anecdotes and ideas as to how we can beat that. And he's already warned me they're controversial, so we know we're in for a treat. And then we're also going to talk about how it compares to 40k, other games that we've played. We've all got a whole chunk of games in now. Liam's played a bunch of tournaments, so I'm going to mine their brains and see what they think. And we're going to speak to you guys in the chat. Okay, over to you both.
Cool.
Concur.
Thank you. Liam was the only one who did that properly. Thanks, gents, for joining me on a Saturday evening. It's nice to be doing a podcast on a Saturday evening. How are you both keeping?
Yeah, can't complain.
Can you complain about it, Rob?
I'm good. I'm glad to have a break for some painting. But yeah, no, it's a good weekend so far. So
you've been sat there painting a bunch of Night Lords.
Yep,
Rumour,
I've got a load of them in front of me just down here.
Doing your little commission painting. I tell you what, I was painting today, boys. I wasn't painting actually. I was doing transfers. I was doing loads of transfers on my Bretonians.
Are they all ready for the tournament?
I'm not playing it. I'm streaming it.
Chickened out.
Cop out, yeah.
Well, I would like to play. I was thinking about maybe going to Luke. Like maybe actually I could just play in this one, but it would also be nice to do a stream. Games. Well, it's so difficult to stream and play though. That's the thing. It's like it is an absolute nightmare.
I said to a canvas, press record, jobs are good.
Liam, you make
sure
it sound
there's nothing more goes into it.
You're saying that to wind me up, aren't you? I know you too well. Yeah, transfers. My Bretonian models have looked so much. That was what was missing. I kept looking at them being like, these Bretonians just don't look right. They don't look right. They don't look right. And it was because there's so much like just blank space on them. Just shields. You know what I mean? And I was painting them the black, but now I've put the white axes on.
I thought you were going to freehand them.
Mate, I can barely freehand my own signature. Never mind something on here. It'd be a nightmare. Liam, what are you painting, mate? How's your hobby going?
Yeah, it's okay. Finishing a troll army off. And then it's back to this box of Luminef to become more high elves.
Oh, I was going to say for a second then I thought you might be about to say you're going to play Age of Sigmar.
I've got armies ready for that. I don't need to paint new stuff.
I thought you were going to be like, I'm going to go back to the Luminef, mate. You got me right. So Rob, a couple of years ago, Liam said to me, I think we were just coming out of lockdown, and Liam was like, right, we're all playing Age of Sigmar because obviously me and Liam know each other from the game that can't be mentioned. Welcome, boys, that are joining us in the chat from Discord. And I was like, okay, fine. So I jumped over and bought this Slaves to Darkness army. Played one event with them all. Was it LGT? Was it the team event? And then they all sodded off and played something else.
Oh.
I was like,
to be fair,
guys.
I've only done one AOS event since then as well.
Yeah, he just sacked it off. I was like, all right, okay. Well, cheers for that. What should I do with these? That's why I've got loads of IDNF Deep kit in there. Just sat there.
I'd love to paint the big turtle, but I don't think I've got time for another game.
Yeah, the downside to painting Age of Sigmar models is you then have to play Age of Sigmar.
Or just put them on square bases, and there's your Warriors and Chaos army.
Yeah. That is a much better idea.
How can I play eels and turtles in a Chaos. Well, I mean, I guess we could go something weird like Lizard Men, but just underwater, right?
Yeah, you could
So-
maybe lizard men them, yeah.
I've got a bunch of IDNF on the shelf as well. And prior to Old World releasing, I was like, what army am I going to do? So I wanted a Games Workshop model army to play at Warhammer World. And obviously I went with Illumineth for High Elves. But I very nearly, did start buying IDNF models to use as Wood Elves. I'd run a AOS event kind of November a couple of years ago, and a guy there had painted him in his IDNF army in green and browns. It's like, that looks blooming awesome. I'm having that. Started buying stuff and then got talked out of it and went the other route. But I think at some point I'll be picking up Sylvaneth models and a few more IDNF to make a Wood Elf list.
Mate, I'm excited for the Wood Elves. Wood Elves were always the faction I enjoyed the most in fantasy. Like, Wood Elves are the one, surely.
You just don't play Warhammer, do they? They avoid playing Warhammer.
No, yeah, that's true. We're going to moan about lists that are like super broken. But I don't think anything Wood Elf-wise has come out absolutely horrendous. People were worried about the lots of small 5-man units.
Yeah.
But Liam, have you seen any of them at events and stuff?
No, there's been one list that's done similar, but it's done okay in events, but it's
not horrible.
I'll save it for later.
Okay.
I think it's the best way to put it.
Agenda item number 1 is the current Old World speed of releases. So, Rob, do you remember when we drove down to Warhammer World?
Yeah.
Saw Liam there, but Liam refused to speak to us and wouldn't get us in early. No, we stood and trolled you at the table for a bit while we were queuing for about 5,000 hours. It feels like forever ago, because it was forever ago. It was 6 months ago. And I remember driving down in the car, and Rob, you were very excited about dwarves, and you were hoping that the dwarves were the army that had been spoiled and released. But they weren't. It turned out to be Orcs and Goblins. But in 6 months, Orcs and Goblins is the only release we've really seen, other than a few models that we knew which were going to drop for Bretonnians and some stuff for Tomb Kings. And the Orcs and Goblins release has come and gone. It's out. I would have expected after 6 months for us to see a little bit more on the table.
So
I don't know. You've had what? You're 6 months in. You've had 3 full armies release, and dwarfs being teased constantly, but actually not seeing any models or on the shelf. So, I mean, 40k wise, you get one new release every
other day.
You get new releases, but you get
on
like
the
a new
hour.
codex once every 2 months, give or take, on average.
No, we've had
It's
5
weeks.
codexes in 2 months. If you
That's
look
how
at
up to date I am.
I can still hear. I'm just turning this light down.
we've had Custodes, Chaos, Orcs, GSC, and Sisters in 2 months. Right? With that
Wow.
Age of
That is
Sigmar
mental.
have got like a new edition, and I think this is why, if I'm honest, my thing is they're trying to push Age of Sigmar, and all of us old world players have got a new Skaven army to play with. Some of those models look pretty cool, but they need some kind of update from to keep old world going, and I've not seen it.
I'm fairly sure dwarfs will be, if they're not previewed tomorrow, ready for a week before Age of Sigmar. It can't be much longer.
Yep.
Till we get them.
Surely.
They announced them just under 3 months ago at this stage. So I'd like to think that there's a reason why they haven't released them yet, and it's probably something simple, but God knows
You'd
what it
think
actually
so.
is.
Because the thing about Old World is it feels like just a cash cow, because the support for it at release was amazing. Loads of people are really excited about it. There's clearly a big community of people playing. Like, Liam, you don't struggle for a game, do you? There's events constantly your way.
Nah, if I want a game, I can literally sign up for a game at a gaming store, local, and pick up a game, no problem.
And it's that, it just seems like it's such an easy win to make sure that you're churning those models out and getting through them quickly, because you're just printing money. You're literally just printing money that people are picking up and taking. I know there is kind of like an interesting theory, I guess, around the tension and the conflict that can exist between design teams. And it is a little bit weird that, like, there is a tension point between Sigmar, Age of Sigmar, and Old World, right? Because they're in different they're different, like, different branches of the company, and they're kind of like playing in the same field in some respects, because like they'll want the same models, right? So there was like a load of AOS models that have now been discontinued that I thought at the time, oh, they'd make like really good Warhammer models. I wonder if there's like a conversation or a bit of tension of like, we don't want to be selling models that are just getting bought and used in Old World. So like, go on, mate, go.
I was going to say, shout out to Telly in the chat. He's saying he can't get his Wood Elves, right? You know, we know that there is a Wood Elf army in Age of Sigmar. There's a Skaven army in Age of Sigmar, but these models are still not available. That, for me, the conflict of they're not interested in selling for one for the other, but they're not even doing it for their own system. So that doesn't feel like there's either some kind of supply issue or something in the background that we don't know about.
But, I mean, on that, due with the news in the Evening Post yesterday for Games Workshop opening up a new factory in a old derelict building behind their current ones.
Yeah.
So they clearly are expanding and want to expand. But from like a business point of view, you can't just go, oh yeah, here's £4 million, go and do that. If you've not got that, or however much it costs, it probably is more than that, to actually do that. And unless you've got those funds ready, when you're not prepared to, I don't know, if you're taking money from dividends you were going to pay out to shareholders, that means that you've now got less, so your stock price drops, even though you make an investment in the company long term. It's all swings and roundabouts. It's not just as simple as make more stock and people will buy it, because I'm sure they'd love to sell your stuff. Like, they're making however much money, they'd love to make X plus a bucket load more money. It's just takes time to scale up.
Yeah, they're just normally a lot better than this, though, aren't they, Judo? You know, again, if you think about that, the 40k releases, and I get it's a different game, and there's a way bigger audience, customer base for 40k, but there is a huge demand for this game. Like, there are so many people that are desperate to get their hands on models. I guess there's like an interesting reflection around the Dell boys, the printers. Okay, no name, not mentioning any names, but like, there's literally one over someone's shoulder on the call. Funnily enough, I'm sure it's for some. I'm sure you print, you know, collectible coins, Liam.
Definitely. It's just for D&D, exclusively D&D models.
And terrain and basing, yeah?
Just got loads of D&D dwarfs. Yeah, we've been doing this 9-month D&D dwarf campaign, and it turns out I've got a dwarf.
For every situation.
I've now got 10,000 points worth of dwarfs for D&D.
You never guess
not
that.
for fantasy at all.
Yeah. So there is, like, I guess, ultimately, the rules of, you know, I've played a game against Dark Elves, even at Stephen's Dark Elves, and his Dark Elves, you know, they were old school Dark Elves, but I guess there isn't that absolutely urgent, oh my God, you need to release these, you know, if you just release a game off the bat and have like all these armies, but they've never been around and no one can print them, then I imagine people get very angry very quickly. But
I mean, fantasy if you're looking at Old World as being a continuation of Warhammer Fantasy, it went 9 years without a release.
Yeah.
Like, you've had 3 in 6 months. That's a massive step up.
Yeah, but that's like a Games Workshop PR spin. Guys, you never guess. We've really smashed it out the park.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, I have to wait another 18 months for dwarves. Is that one?
Something like that. But like, if you really, really want to play the game, and like you need an army now, you can pick up the legacy armies, and it's like all of those, with the exception of Chaos Dwarfs, have got Age of Sigmar model rangers. There was a beautiful army at one of Rob's events a few weeks ago, which is all built out of, still got some Empire free troops, but all the war machines are the new City of Sigmar one. My high elves are the Lumineth. There are options there. Admittedly, I would love them to have a full set of releases, and I could go and buy a Wood Elf army tomorrow. Instead, I'm printing one today. So they're lost, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it is their loss, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not even like upset about the delay in there. I just wish they were more upfront. Like, this dwarf teaser is the epitome of taking the piss. It's like, you know, 3 weeks or whatever it is. They've said we'll find out on Sunday. Like, Just tell me. Don't tell me I'm going to find out on Sunday. I don't really like. That's even worse than just not knowing that something's going to come out. And
It's such a lame announcement that we're going to tell you something. So new announcement. We're going to announce something. You absolute joke.
yeah, like we've known that dwarves are coming for 3 months. If this was if this was Age of Sigmar or 40k, 3 months would have been. You'd have had hell to pay. So.
Oh yeah. There is something I mentioned to Liam before doing this was like, if it was 40k and it was this slow, people would have quit the game. Like there would be absolute uproar and outcry. And I find it funny sometimes. Well, being a 40k player, it's funny when people get annoyed and angry about the number of releases. They're like, oh, there's too many releases, it's endless, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, they absolutely love it and buy loads of stuff. It's kind of like the endless, like, new release is like the dopamine rush of being able to buy something or think about a new thing or build a new army. But if this was a speed of release for 40k, there wouldn't be any players left. People would have rage quit and go absolutely mad. So I wonder if that says something about the player base as well, being a slightly older, more mature
used to
crowd.
having no releases. So the fact you've got a rule set, the fact there's 3 armies, the fact you can buy models again, it's a big step in the direction a lot of people want. Again, I would love to have a new codex, new army book every 2 months. But at the same time, I'm okay not playing catch up to the latest releases. I'm okay to build up an army. No, it's not going to change. It'd be there. Like, that's great.
Yeah, you make that is a fair point. But at the same time, do you think? Because I remember Liam, we talked about this before Old World came out. Me and you did a show, and we talked about the Old World player base, and our assumption was that the crowd would be a bit older. It'd be those sort of more older school players that have played fantasy. Are you seeing that at events and stuff, and in your meta?
There's definitely some people who have been playing since 3rd edition who are turning up to events, and it's great. But I'd say there's definitely a slightly older crowd. But you're not talking everyone's in slippers and dressing gowns at events.
It's not historical gamers, because they're an old crowd out there. When someone's like, I play Celts against Romans, I think, oh boy.
Yeah.
They're a pensioner.
It's not that. Like, there are enough. Like, there's definitely new blood. And that's kind of what you want, right?
I think
for sure, yeah.
We're definitely fortunate that Age of Sigmar is there, because that is drawing in new blood. And we have a new edition of, I know none of us play it, but like that is helping. I just wish that there was a bit more. Maybe if they had they've done some kind of release for some of the not legacy armies per se, but some of the official armies, because we're talking about going to eBay. I don't want to spend 50 quid for 3 Ironbreakers, and I know I can print them, but then I can't go to official events. So I just wish it feels like give me the support I want to play your game.
Yeah, that's the confusing bit, because players are crying out for that, and they're not quite there yet. What is the thing with dwarfs? Basically, tomorrow there's going to be a new announcement about dwarf. There's going to be something about.
It's the same as always. So Sunday night, Games Workshop let you know what's coming out for pre-release the following Saturday.
Yeah.
And for the last 2 weeks, on Friday or Saturday, the social team have put out like one of those "What are you painting at the moment?" kind of pictures, and it's been dwarf themed. Okay. So it's kind of like just teasing.
Okay. So they're teeing up for it next week, but it's likely to be a Sunday night.
Well, if it's not this Sunday for next Saturday pre-release, then it's after Age of Sigmar 4, because we know when that's coming out now. We can all do the maths on that. So if it's not ready for pre-order or announced tomorrow, ready for pre-order following Saturday, it's after Age of Sigmar 4, which means you're probably looking at 5 to 6 weeks from now.
That suits me right now. Telly us
what financially?
Yeah, well, something to do with the Sisters Army. No comment.
Yeah, no, don't mention. Not allowed to talk about that game.
Telly has said, "Do we think the Total War franchise is feeding the old world player base?" And
yeah, it's a good shout.
For me, yes. you know, that's definitely kept it current, and that doesn't feel like Age of Sigmar. I've played it a lot, you know. I get the ranked up army feel, so I would say yes, it is definitely.
Let me say this is oh no, go on, Liam, because I was going to completely take us off point.
Definitely is, because Games Workshop sent early release copies to Total War streamers and influencers, so they clearly feel there's some overlap, and they wouldn't still be doing that if it wasn't, in their opinion, driving sales.
Yeah.
This might be too much of a digression. Where are the children? Where are the kids? Like, this isn't a
Mine are
weird
next
way.
door.
No, I can hear yours. But like, when me and Liam nearly did this, me and 40k Liam nearly did this as a subject on Meta Monday, but I was like, forget it. But there seem to be less young people playing the game. Have you seen any like younger old world players?
So,
at our club, we have a few 40k. I mean, I got beat by a child last week, actually, so we don't want to talk about that too much. But
he's 15.
literally, he was doing his GCSEs, Liam. He was doing his GCSEs. He was like, yeah, sorry, I'm a bit tired. I said, why, mate? He said, I've had my GCSEs. And then proceeded to beat me at 40k.
We had War in the Heartlands Major Sigmar event last year. We had, in one of the rounds, we had one table with a combined age of 31.
Okay.
And one table playing with a combined age of 134. It was just like...
Yeah, so...
And Usher says in the chat, which is a great point, like when we played as kids, I'd remember like it was expensive. Like it was an expensive game. Right? Like I remember Warhammer Fantasy being the less accessible game of the two. Because like you need a lot of models and you have to paint. Like I got into fantasy at an older, you know, like when I was in my teenage, like well into my teens. Now imagine like a kid walking into a shop and being like, well, not just older, but any game, but I'll get that game. The parents thinking, how many points do they play? And the manager's going, well, you know, around 1,000 to 1,500. They're like, okay. And if it came to older, imagine how much you'd need for like a just say 12 quid for Orc Boys.
Right.
I mean, I think if you look at, that's why I've been in touch with, now got these Kill Team, Spearhead, and what's the 40k version?
Vanguard.
The Combat Patrol.
Yeah. That's your buy-in, isn't it? That's your one.
That's your kid buying. Yeah, for sure.
And that wasn't a thing when we were kids.
No.
It was, you needed to buy 3 rhinos and 30 tactical marines, and they must be doing something right as a company, because value's generally going up. They're performing well, paying out dividends every year. So, like, by all metrics, they're performing well.
They're probably in their golden era. They put them games, which is probably its like golden point.
So you don't go down Dice Saloon, Paul, much, right? They have.
I've been down a couple of times, but it's difficult to get it. You have to fight your way through a few aggressive homeless people. I go down there if I want to fight. I like Dice Saloon. It's great.
They have, and I'm assuming it's the same for other LFGs, right? They have a group where the younger players get to play, and you know, like the guy that you played on 40k on Tuesday.
Why keep bringing this up?
His dad is who introduced him to the game, right? So you know there was a bit of help, probably their share armies, that kind of thing. I think that is definitely going on for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. We have a Discord you go into, and I've been able to play a few games outside of our club area. And I'm going to say the average age of some of the is probably pushing kind of late 20s, if you take into the fact there's 6 or 7 kids who are coming with their parents, and they do that. They do those days. So I think a lot of it is probably visually we only go to the club or we play with our mates who are mid to late 30s.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's more our fault for not putting ourselves out there, right?
I'm slightly worried that Games Workshop have just turned up at Liam's. Liam, are you
I know
okay?
it's Leanne taking stuff
Wink.
from the shelf.
If you need help, just start blinking. Okay. I know Morse code. So if you blink in Morse code, I can get you sorted out, mate. And don't be swearing at me, Morse code, because I know what you like. Careful.
Have they asked you to buy a coin yet?
A coin, the classic GW coin.
You know, if you spend another £180 on 300 Orc Boys.
I actually have the old world one over there. I've got the old world. I'll show you. It's like turn it into a show and tell.
while he's getting that coin, I just think it's worth putting out that, like, yes, the cost of an army
It's
is
the wrong way.
expensive. You can't see that on the stream.
You need to pull it to towards your head.
to your left. There we go.
Very nice. Is that for your
This is probably worth about £2.50 now. You get one for every £80 you spend or whatever. You get a coin worth 2p.
I'm just saying, like, an army is expensive, but I think I was working out a Bretonian force the other day. It was only about $240. Like,
too bad.
it's not horrendous.
That's not awful.
Full
It's not
army
awful.
direct from Games Workshop. Like, compared to a 40k list, like, it's probably the cheaper of the two games.
Oh, 100%. Like, I've just built
it probably is.
Drukai army, Dark Eldar, and the easiest way to do it was to buy 4 combat patrols, and that's still like 350 quid. And I haven't even completed the list, so
Next week there'll be shit.
only if I lend them to you.
yeah, no, for sure. I will definitely, whatever I play, definitely goes down the toilet. So hopefully, like on the sort of speed of releases, hopefully it picks up. But I think it'd be really disappointing if the first 6 months of release are reflected the same as the second are the same as the first. I think that'd be a bit. I think if we're having this chat in another 6 months' time, and we're like, oh, there's 2 armies have come out, I think I'd be a bit disappointed. I'd like to think there could be a bit of we hit Christmas and there's a decent range available.
I mean,
I kind of hoped with those 9 armies, we were looking at 18 to 24 months.
Yeah.
For those 9.
Reasonable, yeah.
And we're on course for that. Still. Even with this
it's
okay. I guess they cheat a bit there because at release there was 2 that dropped.
Yes, totally.
Skewed a little bit.
It wouldn't surprise me if at Christmas we get like 2 armies.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, just as many as possible, please, GW. People want to buy.
So if we're getting, say we get dwarfs by the end of July at worst, then you're looking at what? Another, what's that? You got 5 more months if they do 2 more armies in that time.
Yeah.
And then that gives them only needing to do 4 the following year to get them all out.
And then that's one every 3 months, which actually isn't too bad a release schedule, you know.
It was never like that in fantasy. It was 1 every 9 months, if you were lucky.
It's a different era there, wasn't it?
It is a different era, but it's the specialist design studio. It's not Games Workshop main box and whatever it is.
I'd also think it's 9 armies, not the 26 factions that they've got for 40k, you know, so the release schedule is going to be faster for those games.
Usher says another one is the loss of Sunday clubs at Games Workshop stores. That was the pipeline for myself. When I was at university, I almost said which wasn't that long ago then. It actually was quite a while ago.
A while ago for all of us, mate.
Yeah, God, so depressing. There was a whole unit that they built at Meadowhall. I think we might have played there, Liam. It was where Adam. Do you remember where Adam used to live, Liam? Up on the hill. It was like down from the hill, one of the mega hills of death in Sheffield. And yeah, it was just this like huge thing that they'd opened where you could just go and play games all day. And even the shops would make more of an effort to be like, yeah, Stephen, he was on about it the other night when we were around, saying he'd organise gaming sessions and stuff, get kids into play. Stephen said that was around 2001.
You see,
now when I've been into the shop, the shop the local shop to me, I mean, it's insane. The stuff they're doing in that shop's insane. I went in the other day. Right, this is no word of a lie. I went in the other day, just bought I don't know what I buy as minimum as possible from there, because it's a hell of an experience. I bought like a pot of paint, and he was like, "Do you want to what are you doing what are you doing Saturday daytime?" And I was like, "I don't know, but probably something, because like." My life, you know what I mean? My wife will have something, we'll be doing something. And he was like, right, well, let me know, because we're doing a kill team game where have you got 3 friends that might come along? And I was like, I don't know, mate. I don't even know.
I haven't got 3 friends.
My family don't even like me. Like, I don't have 3, I mean, I can't even get my family to like me. Never mind anybody else. And he was like, well, if you bring 3 people along, then you'll do a kill team. And he was telling me the rules, and I just thought, this is mad. What's wrong with just saying, have a game of 40k? It was all these like weird and they keep doing it. There's all these like weird games. They were doing a Dawn of War 40k, Like someone had adapted the Dawn of War rules. I just thought, just play 40k. What's
Yeah, but
going on?
You've got a space of like 3 tables worth of gaming space. If you're lucky, you need to get people on it for 45 minutes to an hour and get them off it, so you get the next people on.
Well, how did we cope then? Because I remember going into the shop and it being like, do you know what I mean? I remember there always being games and getting games in, and it being like you felt like there's a community.
Bigger.
The one they had outside were big. The one they had in that big thing.
I mean, the store I had 1 table in it, right? It was a tiny little store, probably no bigger than the room that you're in now, Paul. So we used to have to play games in the evenings. So they'd like the store would shut at 6, but you could arrange a game from like 6 until 8 or 5 until 8, and that's how we used to have to play even back then.
I mean, I was spoiled in the Warhammer world with my local. So
Yeah,
it used to stay open until 10 o'clock on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And it still does on Thursdays and Fridays if there's an event on the weekend. So
you've had it good.
You
Nottingham lot have had it really good. With
GW. Yeah, we're spoiled. Totally and utterly.
But then you spent a lot of what I'd probably say your prime years intellectually, intelligence-wise, Liam, no offence, playing a different game.
Yeah, did a little bit. But,
you know what I mean? Now you're in mental decline. You've come back to...
I just regressed to what I was doing in 2019 or 2009.
Just push your models forward.
Yeah.
Everything will advance, and if it can charge, it'll charge.
Telly says one plan.
Yeah, I want to hear about your trolls. Telly says, glad you mentioned the younger players and their difficulty getting into the hobby. It's a social game that needs to drive engagement with new generation of players. Red Stevens' comment. Orchestration, that is a great name. Someone always wins the name of stream. Orchestration is powerful. Nothing will ever beat Teddy Rhubarb. But Teddy Rhubarb that came in the chat, that was a special day. But orchestration, that is very good. Been waiting on Core Bretonia to come back in stock for 2 months. Jesus.
See, I think that's the case of looking. Obviously, GW themselves are not the best store. Their website isn't the best, but I know for a fact that their Bretonian core is available in RFLG and in the local.
Check
GW.
out Dice Saloon. I feel bad for saying there's you have to fight for homeless people to get in Dice Saloon. Go check out Dice Saloon. They might have.
They do, but only because I was in there today buying paint.
Oh, really? Telly says, I hope 3D printing gives them back affordable access to games and allows them enough financial wiggle room for trial and error modelling and painting. We need to. That's the other very good point around younger people getting into the game, like just like massacring models as they try and paint it. Do you know what I mean? I guess that printing's good for that. Whether kids
just having a quick look, and that core set is out of stock, but like there's more in stock than out of stock for Bretonians at the moment.
Are you just looking on the GW website? Right?
Yeah, like it's not great. Obviously, you would love it all to be in stock, but it's not. Oh my god, horrendous! Game's dead. Stage by any means, or game's not being supported.
And not to be on their side, but we've already said, that we think they're trying to build up their production based on some information that they've released recently. So,
well, they clearly are. They're not building a new factory to have it do nothing.
Exactly.
They just have the robots fighting each other in there. They turn into a battle royale.
They know that they could sell more. It's clear they could sell more because you've got people clicking on that tell me when it's in stock button.
Yeah. And they're not daft.
More people are doing that.
They ain't daft. Someone way earlier in the chat, I'm going to move us on to a second agenda item that you both confirmed. Someone further back in the chat, sorry, I've drunk loads of Coca-Cola, said, are screamers dreaded? Not a list archetype I've come across. So, Liam, just to clear this up, the screamer list is pretty awful to play against, am I correct?
So, just to say, where you put it in the placeholder for the video made it seem like it was screamers as each.
Oh, what, have I spelt it wrong?
No, it's just like.
Oh, right.
If you know what I'm on about, it wasn't. Yeah,
well, I've done it now.
Basically,
on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
I'm going to trigger the community. Old world's more chill than 40k community. I get a hard time with the 40k.
On about demons being overpowered, and that's not the case.
That's fair.
So the Scream list effectively works around the Wailing Dirge special rule of the Vampire Counts Legacy army list. So your unit takes a leadership test at -2, and for each point it fails by, you take 1 wound with no armor or regen saves allowed. So even if you're leadership 10, like a dwarf lord, high elf lord, then on a good dice roll, you could still take 6 wounds.
Ouch.
And what Vampire Counts players have been doing in some cases is taking 4, 5, 6 of models with the Wailing Dirge special rule, coupling it with necromancy magic usually. So units are at -1, -2, -3, plus the additional -2, and suddenly your leadership 10 general is leadership 5, and on average taking 2 wounds, but regularly more. Or if you're playing an army without leadership 10, like, I don't know, one full of trolls at a leadership 4 or 5, you're taking leadership tests on 2s. And for each point you fail by, you're taking wounds with no regen save or armor save. So on average, you're taking off best part of 2 trolls.
And how oppressive is it? And can people play it in? Can people tone it down so it's not as horrendous as you just described?
The exact same list can be taken, and all you do is you take out necromancy and swap it for any other law of your choosing.
And it's not awful. It's not awful to play against.
No, not at all. Or you take out one of the Mortis engines, or don't take the Banshees and take a vampire on foot to fight stuff instead. Like, you can play the same list with minor changes, without even changing models.
Oh, fine.
And it's fine.
How broken is it? Like, how many people are just winning events straight up with this list?
So
James Ramsey's you might recognise the name from 40k side of things, Rob.
Yeah.
He's been we was playing it quite a bit, and he took out one of the square-based events with it, and then again did the exact same thing with a modified version of the list where he put in more screams and went up to 6 instead of 4 he had originally. A modified version of it went to one of their team events, and that team won. And I've seen it around at a few other events I've been to. The one I was at a couple of weeks ago, a guy had it there, but he didn't do as well. Effectively, the problem isn't that the screaming models are screaming. It's that
a lot of screams.
Like, yeah, the problem with it is that it's very tough to break down as well. So Vampire Counts have access to large units of zombies, and up until recently, when the FAQ came out, they could be taken above their starting size. So you'd maybe pay for 15, 20, and it'd go up to 40. Now that's changed, and you can only go up to the unit size you bought with originally, but still take a couple of units of 35 zombies. Like, no one's getting through those, and it's only 120 points ish for that unit. A couple of those, a couple of smaller units to like protect your flanks, maybe some dogs or fell bats, and it just walks forward. And
sounds really dumb.
Within 8 inches.
It sounds really dumb. Sounds like a really dumb basic list to play.
Yeah.
But like really awful and oppressive to play against.
It is. And it was James's results especially have just been tabling opponents. Like, one of the square-based events he did, I think he picked up, like, it's on a 20-0 sliding scale system, but he had 4 results of 16 and above. and I've hit that maybe 3 times in 4 events so far. Like the scale that he's winning by with that list is absolutely massive.
What needs to be done about it?
So this is probably the controversial bit of it, is I don't think there's actually anything wrong with it per se. It's people don't know how to play it and are playing it on the vampires' terms. So all people need to do, in the very simplest session, is not play the game. I don't mean storm off to the bar and give them the 20-0. I mean deploy fairly far back.
Yeah, because this is what you did, right? You did
I
go.
played it
Chat us
twice.
through. Chat us through. Take us through there. So you turned up at the table. Tell us what you did.
So I played it twice. First time was with my high elves. So leadership 10 dragon, big bubble of leadership 10, 18 inches plus the base size on either side. I can make my entire army leadership 10 without any issue. My opponent started deploying slightly to one side. So I deployed a couple of faster models, my eagles, silver helms on that side, and refuge flank, whether it's pronounced, and did the majority of my army on the other side of the board. So we effectively started off like that, and the game went like that. My army running away over here. And I think in that game, my opponent got to scream 5 or 6 times, despite having 6 models that could scream. So again, it's just not playing the game. And then I picked up enough points from one Terrorgeist that came a little bit too far forward. Dragon charged it over to one side so that my opponent couldn't bring all their remaining screams into force. Dragon took 3 sets of screams at leadership 6, took a handful of wounds, saved a couple on the ward save, and then ran away. But it was enough points with what I'd thrown away to deny full advances from the vampire player to just pick up a small win.
So he won,
And
but he won a minor.
I won.
Oh, you won?
Yeah,
Oh,
won
just because you
11-9
tickled
in
off
that
enough.
one.
Okay.
Second time I played it, I deployed very far back with my troll army. The one thing it doesn't reach out and touch people very well, that vampire counts list. My opponent, after about 3 turns, had realised that I wasn't going to come and play the game, and they weren't going to win big enough.
Were you
So
smiling throughout all of this? Because I've obviously played. I've known you for a long time. Like
I did
imagine
moaning, very loudly moaning for the last.
Because that's part of this.
6
You got,
hours of the tournament.
you
Yeah,
got to
you've
let
got to make them
people
feel
know
bad.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to add that in, Liam. That's
And,
like that's the seasoning.
Yeah, they realised that I wasn't going to play the game properly. Like I wasn't going to come and fight with my troll fighting
Stand in a
army.
corner.
I'm going to lose. There's literally no point in playing that game. It's an exercise in how quickly I can take my trolls off the board.
And how were they interacting with you through this? Were they sort of being a bit jolly and like having a laugh with you?
His first round opponent had done exactly the same thing, and but they were playing the long way scenario, the battle for the pass.
Oh, I'd love
And
to
it was a
play that
dwarf
against
army.
him.
So he literally deployed on the board edge and been like, "Yep, I'm not playing this game either."
It's just gonna stand at the back.
I reckon my dwarf army probably puts him at a massive disadvantage because I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm going to deploy.
Just stand
Which
on
is
the
what I
back
mean.
line.
It's people need to stop playing Warhammer, and
It's not ideal, Liam.
no, but so what happens is enough people take this army to events, and then enough people stop giving it big wins.
Yeah.
Like if you're taking that list, which is boring as hell to play, like no one wants to play that
dumb.
list.
It just
with
sounds so
exception-
simple.
Yeah, but no one wants to play it because it's boring. I'm going to move forward 4 inches, and then I'm going to cast my spell that gives me reserve move, and if I'm lucky, I may get to move another 4 inches forward. This is what I'm going to do for 3 turns, or less if you're going to come charge me, and then I'm going to take all your models off. If you keep moving back and give them an eagle, or 1 unit of cav, or 5 archers, like we're not getting wins, and we're not getting big wins.
Yeah.
So it isn't enough to win the event. And if you're taking that kind of army to an event, you're doing it to win the event. You're not doing it to make friends.
You're not off to make friends. I was just going to say, you're not going
So,
to have like a good time.
After, I don't know, a handful of events where you're taking this list people are no longer playing you at Warhammer, you're not getting big wins, you're not enjoying the army you're playing, you stop taking it. And then everyone else has no longer got the problem. So you need to beat it out of people. Like, there's no, like, if there's a...
We've got to mentally get through to these people that no one wants to stand up at the table. So let them moan at them consistently for the entire time and put your models in an army.
Like, we were joking from as soon as... So in that tournament the other weekend, the vampire player on the door threw on the table behind me and my opponent. And me and my opponent drew that game as well. So we were like chatting to a TO, like, oh yeah, who's going to have to play it next, blah, blah, blah. And we were just like, both of us were being, like really playing up a little bit. And then obviously in the last game, draw goes up, I'm playing it. There's suddenly 5 people pointing and laughing at me. And I'm like, throwing my toys out of the pan about it. Like, the guy I've played against, really lovely guy, but he was under no illusion that I did not want to be there and did not want to have to play it.
Hi to Adam, by the way. Hello, Adam. Welcome, my friend.
I honestly think this is the way you deal with it. You just make it so they're not enjoying themselves either, to a point of not playing.
Bullying works.
Bully them.
But bullying is effective. There are other techniques that could be used, Liam, such as tournament organisers errataing it.
I feel like I'd love to play them. I feel like I'd love to play them because I reckon I can kill 35 zombies in one turn. And then, I know for a fact I've done it because I killed Luke's 40 skeletons with a 5-up ward save in one turn, and then tabled him because I killed his general with the cannon just after, and his whole army broke.
Oh, look, you're crumbling.
Yeah, like turn 1, your army's crumbling. Okay.
Yeah. What do dwarfs do against it, Leo? Dwarfs got game just sitting at the back. At least you're going to kill like if they played against me and I stood in a corner, I'm not going to kill anything until they get to me.
I'm going to stipulate my dwarf army is not fun to play against because it has, no reason to move a single inch out of the deployment zone, and after don't start on the line, right. It's all guns.
But you see, same thing. Play with terrain, deploy behind the wood, behind the building, away from the dwarves. Don't engage them.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to play a game where the game is, can I bum rush you in time, or can I not? It's not. I want to play a proper game of Warhammer where we each move units around. We get to do some charge reactions. We fight some combats, maybe a bit of overrun, some funky repositioning models. Like, actually play the game, not play.
I agree. I don't disagree. The challenge is going to be people always push it and will always push it.
Which is why you have to beat it out of them. They don't understand anything else.
I think a rule of no more than 50% missile weapons would be good for the game.
Well, Wood Elves would disagree.
Yeah, they would, but then so would any dwarf player. The Empire army that was shown by Squarebase earlier this week was an all gunline Empire army, right?
How many games did it win?
I don't know.
It won 3 games. The army that won that event was a dwarf army with, I think it had 2 good throwers, an anvil, and maybe a unit of like 16 to 20 rangers as far as ranged output. Had 2 combat blocks, combat, BSB, and I had 2 units of Trollhammer torpedo guys, Iron Drakes as well.
Probably my favourite.
Again, it's only just over half of its models actually had a range weapon. Yeah, it was a nice, fairly rounded army.
Do you think most people are taking lists, Liam, that are fun to play? So one thing Colton had talked about on the shows that I've done with Colton, talking about his Exiles list. Colton's been his list's cheeky, and I know he's sort of tinkering with it and changing things. But one thing he was aiming for is a list that's really strong, but really good to play against. So it's not a negative play experience. It's still something where you feel like there's agency. When you're going to these events, 'cause it's safe to say, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I reckon Nottingham at the moment, because of Rob and the arena, it's probably the strongest meta. Like there's probably more games going on in Nottingham
I think
than
that's.
anywhere else.
I wouldn't say it's the strongest matter. I'd definitely say there's more games going on.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, it's the most thriving. There's enough people.
Yeah.
There's probably
But
more
there's
people putting games down there.
coming for that as well. Like
Yeah.
Sure.
groups
Yeah.
from Hereford that come up every other week, or there's a group from London that come up
Yeah.
with events. It's like the fact it's only 24 people as well means that you get to know people.
Sure, but it's still a good sample. It's still you're still a very relevant person to ask. Like, how many? Because just to sort of step back a step and just zoom out, 40k people take the absolute best list they possibly can, the majority of the time. Well, sure, some people take the rule of cool, this, that, and the other, but you can't go to a 40k tournament and not expect to play against the best list. Like, if you're like, oh my god, I can't believe you've taken this, that's so strong. Like, someone's going to have a word and be like, mate, once you win a couple of games, you're going to come against those lists every time.
I think you have to take a pinch of salt with games like 40k, or I played Malifaux previous, and the other game you mentioned. The scoring system matters. Okay, so Warhammer Fantasy Battles is a kill more game. You score, you win the game based on how much you score. Whereas let's take 40k in the absolute extreme. There are armies that can kill 0 models in the enemy, but beat them by 100 points.
That's what bloody Harvey did to me the other night. He literally didn't kill him. He was just picking models up and putting him in a corner. And I was like, I'm not sure this is. But on the other hand, though, Rob, that experience I had against Harvey is wonderful. Harvey's lovely. He's a great kid. He's awesome. What he's doing at the age of 15 is so drastically better than what I was doing at the age of 15.
Yeah.
Hats off to him, right?
No white lightning down the park.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically, egging houses. But basically, he was just picking models up and putting them in corners of the board. Yeah. And it didn't feel strategic. It felt kind of like, how do I manipulate the rules? So I manipulate them by just taking deploy. Well, I don't want to talk about 40k, but just literally manipulating the rules. At least Old World, it might not be the most competitive rule set, but there is something honest about, like, let's just kill each other. Let's just meet in the middle.
Honest was the word I was going to use. Like, there are very few outside of probably that vampire list, and there's a Tomb King one that goes along a similar route. Big unit Shapti with bows and 2 Casket of Souls. So like trying to deliver the same effect. But there are skews, but the skews aren't winning events. I think someone said it before, where not here, but dragons were the big bad when the game came out. No one wants to play against a dragon. They're super powerful. Well, one, it's a dragon, it should be powerful. And 2, dragons actually aren't winning events. They're winning games, but they're not consistently winning events. And that's fine.
So Adam has said in the chat, Age of Sigmar kind of solved these issues. I don't think it did. But obviously old world players wouldn't try it. So 2 points on this, Adam. Kahaldran Overlords table you on turn 1. Okay? They drop 2 boats down, drop infantry out in front of it, and shoot massive, great big holes on it. And God forbid that they manage to get a double turn on you. So even in that game, there are instances where Liam, the other person that you do the podcast with, has spoken about the Age of Sigmar drop army that tabled him on turn 1 with mortals. So I don't think that's the same. I think that's the same in both games. And I'm an old world fantasy battle player who did try Age of Sigmar. Yes, I was upset that my army just got completely removed from the game. There were armies that were not transported from Age of Old World or Old World to Sigmar. But I don't think that game has solved the same issue we have here. It does have different scoring rules, though, which means that there would be a method, like holding objectives could be a thing, that scores you a number of points in Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Now, you would still have the honest side of it. I kill some amount of your points, I kill some amount of your army. But if I'm going to put a block of Dwarven infantry on an objective, you now have a tactical reason to come out and fight me. And I think
the dwarves have a tactical reason to go somewhere as well.
Yeah.
Do you think that's needed? So, like, Raoul says in the chat, the game needs a general's handbook or something. It's boring to play, just kill each other.
Yeah.
Because of that, it appears gun line lists, for example. What do you guys think of that?
I don't think more scenarios would hurt. Like, there's 6 scenarios in that book. I've played all of them at least a handful of times, but I'm playing most of it as the pitch battle, that open battle, whatever it's called, where you line up and you kill each other. But that's kind of what I was used to coming from 6th, 7th edition. So
is there a tactically? I mean, are we not just thinking about this in the wrong way? And like, so when I was playing Stephen the other night, we're having a right game. It was Ace, but I realised like at a certain point in the game, I just wanted to not put things in I just needed to not lose 2 units, and if I just didn't lose those 2 units, I'd win the game. So my Bretonian unkillable Mega Lord of Doom, I just kept him super safe because I was like, he might go in and do a few damage to his lord, but I might lose him and lose the game. So is there something around having a strategy and lists that can sort of like almost like you're saying about beating the Scream list, but maybe not as aggressive as you know, like is there something about like being able to kill a bunch of stuff and then just stay out of?
But that's where the balance list comes in. Like, if you take a balance list and play someone with a balance list, so by balance I don't mean not powerful, I just mean isn't skewed heavily towards one side of the game, then you're going to get the scenario where you win some fights, your opponent wins some fights, you shoot some things off, your opponent shoots some things off, and you actually end up with a game which is fairly close, and where actually running away might be the best option. But that's towards the end of the game after you've done some damage. Whereas running away from the vampires on turn 1 happens to be the best play in that scenario.
Yeah.
And
go on, Rob. Sorry, mate, go
I think the way the game is set up right now encourages things like skew or gun lines or, you know, armies where your opponent has to take drastic action of, I'm not going to play the game, because there is no incentive for the person who's building that skew list not to skew if they think it's going to win them really big.
Is there something to be said though about like those those people that want to build those lists just aren't doing, because that's not really how the game is meant to be played? I almost feel like we're sort of entering like a bit of a gentleman's agreement / contract with around the meta, because you're right, people can build these bonkers lists, but would you really want to go have that experience?
So where it works up here is at the moment, someone puts up a post on the Facebook group for my local gaming store on a Saturday or Sunday. You sign up to play a game and you say what night you would want to do it on and what points level you want to do it at. And then usually Monday, Tuesday morning, pairs you up against somebody. And then it's up to you two to play your game. Just so people are playing a variety of opponents at times to suit. And whenever that matchup goes up, I send my opponent a message and just say, what type of game do you want to play?
Yeah.
Do you want to play a tournament game? Do you want to play a friendly learning game? Do you want something a bit softer? Just like, I'll take the edge off it kind of thing. And at the end of the day, I'm spending 3 hours across the table from someone. And I want to play a game of Warhammer. I don't want to play me take my toys off or you take your toys off. I want to play a game. And you don't get to do that at events. And that's kind of a problem, I guess. And you have composition discussions and all that kind of stuff, which I think we're far too early into the game to even really have that discussion. But you just need to find that middle ground. And if it means that, I don't know, I go to a tournament with 40 people and I get one of the 10 worst lists there in round 1 and I get tabled, then I'm not going to enjoy it. But you know what? I'm probably going to have 4 other really good games.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be playing people who bought similar styles to me. And that's what I want from the game. Like, I'd rather do it without having to have that horrible game 1. But at least I'm getting 4 good ones afterwards.
Liam, you've changed.
I think that's a shout. That's a shout out.
He's changed so much as this man. I'm gonna pick you up on that in a second. Go on.
I think that's a shout out to go to the big 5 game tournaments, right? One of the things that you can have happen, people avoid tournament play because a 3 game day, you might end up with one bad list in game 1, and then someone else who came up against a bad list. If you're playing 5 games, by the time you reach game 3, then games 3, 4, and 5 should be people playing at a similar list level to you. So it ends up that day 2 can actually be some of the best days at the tournament, because you're playing people of a similar skill level with a similar list type who have had a similar record to you. And I would say those are some of the most fun games I've had playing.
No, for sure. If the reason you're going to a competitive event is to just have close, balanced games, then for sure. I guess the challenge with the system is you can, because Liam, the reason I sort of take a mick then is we used to play a game where that, like, the point was to take kind of the strongest thing, and like,
yeah,
it wasn't like the idea wasn't to tone anything down, and everybody toned it up and everyone took the best thing. But ironically,
everybody did.
Yeah, I know, but ironically that made the game really balanced, because you didn't get to a table and go, I've decided to take the least optimum things. You were like, why are you doing that? Just take the best things. You've got access to them.
Yeah, and that's that discussion. Like I said, I must send my opponent a message, and I find out what kind of game they want to do. When you were turning up to the game that will not be named tournament, you were turning up knowing that everyone was taking a tournament list.
Yeah.
And imagine if you're going to LGT to play 40k, you know that out of those 400 people, 150 of them are taking that list to try and win that event, or at least do as well as they can do in that event. So it's kind of sorting itself out. And but with an old world event, we're not talking 400 people, we're talking 25, 40 people in most situations at most. So when I'm taking a list, I'm taking a list that I think can perform really well, but is maybe only 85% tuned. And all I will do is I will just make the odd, or I might, if I'm thinking I'm going to win a game anyway, I might decide to limit test a little bit more than I probably would in a more serious game. If we're getting towards turn 4, turn 5, and I'm clearly going to win, I'm going to find out what happens if I charge my Troll Hag into that Doom Ball. I wouldn't do that if it was a close game. But now I'm going to find out. At worst, my opponent kills it and picks up a few hundred points, but it's still not enough to shift the battle in a big way.
Are people winning events that are taking those balanced lists? I think that the answer is right? It's not like every event is like, oh, which absolute...
There are some really powerful list winning events. Like, you'd expect that to happen. But some of that aren't as well. I remember looking back when the last event at Warhammer World, you had that 2-day event that John Dale won.
John Dale won it.
Mr. X himself won it. And
he's hilarious. We've got so many stories about him.
And when there was a list that finished like 5th or 6th there, that was just like 3 blocks of orcs, a unit of ball boys, and a chariot with a level 4 and a warbot. It was like, how on earth has that won games? Like, it's got none of the tricks. But it had just clearly a guy who knew what he was doing, and
I think he shouted "War"
was happy to play
it. Yeah, just did orc stuff. I was going to read a few.
Like,
go on.
That is fine to see, and it's nice to see lists like that performing well. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to win Warhammer. Like, I enjoy winning. Everyone enjoys winning, but I think I'm past that point in my life where that is the most important thing. I'm saying that with a smirk on my face.
Yeah. I know, it's because I know I can just hear you. I know you're lying. It's fine.
That's how I sleep at night. That's what I tell myself.
Is that how you sleep at night?
You can sleep at night because other people he's absolutely smashed. Liam's sort of like, Liam's like a fighter that's like killed a few people and like he's happy, you know what I mean? So now he's just like, I just play for fun and this, that, and the other. It's like, because you've caved a few people's faces in. You've got it out your system when you were in your younger years.
I can't comment. So.
You're both the same. Adam says, what's this mean? I wish MESBG was more popular.
Middle strategy battle game.
Oh.
So essentially,
what is that?
To take in context, looking at Adam's things, he's saying games that have objectives and other methods of scoring appear to be more, less skewy, more balanced. And I can kind of understand where he's coming from. You know, I come from Malifaux. I played 40k. Games that have objective-based play force you to build more balanced armies. You know, 40k is probably an exception because some armies.
40k. I've realised it's just a different beat. It's so weird. It's become such a weird game. But let's not talk about it.
But you still have to build an army that can deal with, 15 situations. I found my games of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and I end up playing a Dwarf Gunline because I hate the mechanics of the charge phase with 3-inch move dwarves. I like to win games, and I've ended up with that particular skew list. But when we play a casual game, I'll play with my 25 blocks of Iron Breakers, give or take, if I can take them.
Right, let's play a game, though. Let's play a game right now, okay?
Yeah.
Rob, tell us your list. Liam, don't say anything until I come to it. I just want to watch Liam's face, okay?
Okay.
What we're going to do now, look, this is a test. This is a mini game. What's in your competitive list, please, Rob?
I'm not sure he's going to like this. I've got the
don't you worry about that.
Rune table. I've got the rune table with 3 runes of spell breaking.
What's he doing? He's going
to mark me down.
So you've got an anvil.
I have an anvil. I have 2 organ guns. I have 2 cannons. They've got some runes on them. I've got a bolt thrower with the skewing rune. I have a big block of rangers. I think it's 20 as troops, and I have 3 blocks of grudge throwers. Not grudge throwers, quarrelers. I have 2 engineers and 3 gyrocopters.
Look, he's laughing as he says it because he knows this. You're regretting this now, aren't you? Coming on a live podcast?
No, man. I told you. I spent ages playing with infantry.
Right, you're right. No, I don't want to hear any more else from you. Right, Liam, what we're looking at here on the grand scheme of things. Yeah, what you see your sort of thoughts and feedback. You're at Rob. You've just come to a tournament, right? Rob's just put that down. What's your strategy?
I'm explaining very carefully that he's losing if I can roll 1 dice higher than he can.
Yeah.
If not, he's got a chance.
Okay, so it's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game. You're happy with that?
If I'm getting turn 1.
It's all about the turn 1.
If Rob gets turn 1, then he's got a chance.
So
if Rob gets turn 1, he's got a chance. If you get turn 1, you smash him.
There's no way that kills a Dragon Lord on its way in.
No, it doesn't.
So that's the game at that point.
Yeah.
Dragon
Okay.
gets in.
Well,
it's game.
Do you know what, Rob? I'm happy with this. I thought you were gonna make something that would just give me nightmares, and I'd never want to.
I'm not going to tell you my secrets on how to beat the dragon here on live on air. I have played.
Sounds like you need to get down here, Liam, for a stream game.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Nice 4-hour round trip, 4-hour trip to you.
To be fair, it's not
moaning,
a fun list for the stream. I wouldn't play on stream. It's not fun. I told you I got an iron breaker list, right? But
it's not about the outcome. It's about the experience. Okay.
There are, I've built this list because I know how to play it and how I think it's competitive. It obviously has counters because it's a skew list. But I reckon 2 out of every 3 games I should be fine because I'm going to come up against a balanced army and I'm going to,
Yeah.
Right. Let me just ask you this, Liam, really quickly before we move off this new segment I've developed. I've just got like a balanced, what people might call the gentleman's Bretonian list with the unkillable Duke and Grail. Stephen will say in chat, the gentleman's list. Will I be able to play against that, or will it be the same thing? If I get first, I never get first. I always kneel.
If you kneel, I love you. I love it.
So in effect, it comes a bit down to like deployment and terrain there. So if you've got on your side of the board potentially a hill, a forest, or a building where you can shield your lord and your pikes from, you've actually got in a hill, even better, because if that hill is slightly out of the deployment zone on your side, you can deploy behind the hill with your knights, really limit what you can shoot before you get a turn.
Yeah.
And potentially from that point, YOLO it all forward. And again, it gets 1 really good turn of shooting, plus a gyrocopter redirects and that kind of thing to actually hurt you. At that point onwards, like, you're not losing combat to quarrelers.
They got great weapons, boys. Come on.
Yeah, he's still not
Right.
losing combat to Quarrelers.
Okay, so the verdict here, Rob, is we're not overjoyed at the list that you've got, but we'll still continue the podcast and allow you to.
It's like Rob said. So he said he's going to win 2 out of 3 games.
Yeah.
And he probably is going to win the best part of 2 out of 3 games with that list. But he's not winning an event with it.
No.
Because 1 out of 3 is getting smashed himself because it can't beat the full rush when he doesn't get the first turn.
Adam says, look at Warcry. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a good segment. Look at Warcry. Your board and objectives are determined by drawing a card each, and the game has to be approached differently. You have to build a versatile list. And then Usha says, my local gaming store has a tournament. On most weekends, it's stated explicitly if it's casual, semi-com, competitive. Surely that's the middle ground. It does help that, doesn't it, if the tournament kind of gives a vibe. So Funhammer here in Brighton at Dice Saloon, they purposely moderate the lists, so they reject lists if they're too competitive. It's a 40k event, so they'll literally just bounce lists. They'll say, nah, sorry, just have another go at that and resubmit. Like, just have another crack at it. Just tone it down a little bit. You're on the right tracks, and give a bit of advice.
I actually really like that as an idea. There used to be one list back in 6th, 7th, 8th edition called Mansfield Mall. And what would happen at a 60-player event? And what would happen is the TO would go through every list and he would pick the 12 dirtiest lists, so the dirty dozen. And if you were in that dirty dozen, you would only play other people in that dirty dozen.
Yeah, that's
for the first couple of rounds. So what you do is,
idea.
it was a brilliant game where people either full embrace it and go as filthy as they could,
That's fun.
or we're trying to be like number 13, 14, or 15 on the dirty list. So you're like trying to avoid it, but if other people went just a little bit softer than you were planning on, then suddenly you find yourself in the really nasty pile.
That's a bit of
But
fun.
what it
That's
meant
a fun
was
system.
because it's like back in the day when you used to do lots of like winning the event wasn't winning all the games.
Yeah.
Like sportsmanship, favorite opponent, painting were all like a big part of the game. And overall standings and winning best overall was the prize. Like, it wasn't winning the event as such. Winning the most games was a big prize. So it really did self-moderate.
And I think they could go back to doing that. You know, we used to have, what was it, the soft scores that was worth as much as a full-on win, or even sometimes 2 full-on wins.
We go back to that. I won't get any points.
Well, that's the whole point of it. Me and you wouldn't get any points. But
no, because people don't like Northerners down here. The Northernists.
The square-based events are doing that now.
What,
so
soft
they
scores?
they have a first place prize for the person who wins their game by the most, like your best general. But they also have a best overall, which is, I don't know exactly how it's weighted, but it is, you need to win 2 or 3 of your games. You need to pick up a bunch of painting votes. You need to be a nice person.
You got to join a union. You got to be a communist. I'm only joking.
Careful, Paul.
No, just play. Just a bit of fun.
And I think last weekend or weekend before was the first time when someone's actually, so the same guy, Richie, won first place, most best painted, and best overall. Like, triple threat.
Triple threat. Got the triple
Well
threat.
played.
It's interesting, isn't it? Thinking about it's interesting, you in particularly, hearing you think and talk about the game. Just know it, because most of our friendship has been based around us spending many hours talking about a totally different game and a different attitude. But I think your reflections are really interesting around just the purpose of why people put models on the table. And you can't really compare systems to each other, can you? Because Old World is very different to the game that can't be named. It's very different to 40k. It's very different to whatever. Yeah, and insert miniature game here. And I guess there is a purpose for each of those games. Maybe there is just this like realization, reflection from the Old World community that the purpose of this game is not really the whole like winning an event, smashing an event. It's a little bit different. And the game that shan't be named, people played that game because that was its brand. Its brand was like really tight rule set, very aggressive game. Play like you've got a pair was literally the catchphrase.
It was on page 5 of the rule.
It was it was literally like play the whole, and then they people got a bit triggered, but so they took it out. But that was the whole kind of like purpose of it. 40k, I think, is in this weird ground, and the thing we talk about a lot on the show, on the 40k shows, is that tension. And I find it so interesting. Is the tension that exists between the different groups that play 40k, the really hyper competitive, the play like you've got a pair crowd, versus the I just love this army that I've built and painted and I want to go have a laugh, and then the middle ground crowd who we all know and probably have been at events. You know, they kind of like want to do well, but I'm not here to win. I'm here to have a good time, but I don't want to get smashed. I don't enjoy getting absolutely smashed at events. So,
just before we move on to the last bit, I just want to say two things. One is, like I said to you, Paul, in one of the early shows we did, I was going to try and become like a voice for the community I wanted to have to play this game, and that's what I'm intending to do. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not saying bully people out of the game.
Well, that is literally what you said. Yeah, that is literally what you said half an hour ago. But carry on.
That list out of the game, and no one has to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I had a discussion earlier with someone at my FLGS, and it was like saying it was on about it, saying that people he'd played against were probably taking it a bit too seriously, and like how we could kind of find a way to tone it down a level. And what I've suggested is, for our next slow grow, for people start new armies, once every about 6 months, whatever game we're playing, that we actually do a map-based campaign where we get people to submit a list at maybe start at the 750, 1,000 points. You submit that list, and we as a group who are playing in that campaign actually feedback on it.
Yeah.
And actually, you know what? We do put some set rules in, so maybe we limit it to one magic item, but it can't give a ward save, or no single character can be over 200 points or whatever. But we actually play fast and loose with that, and just talk and play the game that we want to play. And as much as I said earlier, like, I don't think we're at the place yet where we should be putting comp in place for events, because if Games Workshop are going to look at the game over time and make changes, maybe not on the same level as 40k or Age of Sigmar do, but at least look at it and decide, you know what, maybe that is a little bit too much. We're going to put 1 or 2 lines of an errata in there somewhere. The only way they can do that is if we're all playing the same game.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start putting out tournament packs that are 25 pages of comp, we're no longer playing the same game. So the data that they're getting to make informed choices isn't there. But that is totally different to playing once a week at your local store, where you're just trying to have an enjoyable 3-hour game. In that setting, play the game you want to play, change it. You play like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, treat this as your rough rule book, but if something's cool, do the cool thing. Like, both players want to play it, knock yourselves out, lads.
And the biggest shout out to you said just communicate with your opponent. You know, we do it at the club. If I'm playing a league game was serious. If I'm playing a casual, I'll play something silly like Votan, or you know. So, just I would say second that. Talk to your opponent. Do you want a game? Sure, we're playing anywhere from I'm going to play casual to competitive. I'm not going to play narrative, but others might want to.
It's definitely a different way of thinking about how I've thought about it. It's not that I'm opposed to it. I guess I've just been like, I've rarely approached a game to just think, let's just have a bit of a laugh. I've always, and both of you know this, is I've always thought about gaming. I enjoy the like try to work out complex problems and the strategy, and like I enjoy then going away and refining my list and making it better. You can definitely do that if you're just rocking up to have fun. You know, you can build different types of lists. I guess it's just a readjustment as to what you're trying to build. So like, it's really interesting hearing you say that, Liam, because there's no reason why that process is instead of like, how can I make this list as strong as possible? How can I just like make this list so ridiculous it auto wins, into how can I actually make it a better experience to play against and play with? Yeah. I just
100% that.
But the challenge there, I agree with. I like the approach, but the real challenge with that, because what we're really talking about here is a move away from the sort of rules and social contract of the game being really heavily defined by a rule book, like the game that shan't be named. That was what that really It gave the two players at the table a really clear social contract. This is how we want this game to be played. This is why we've made the rules like this. This is why it's so tight. Now go have a good game. Games Workshop have been a miniatures company and then built models around them. They've been a law work, they've got this amazing universe, amazing miniatures, and they've built rules around them. I think 40k is going down a bit more of a social contract route. We're seeing, there's much more drive to meet in the meta. They're doing if you compare it, Rob, to where it has in the past, they have a meta watch that they release frequently.
Yeah.
There's General's Handbook, like the seasons, there's a mission cards. In the past 10 years, they've gradually increased the kind of focus on a social contract, whereas Old World sort of sits in a bit of a no man's land somewhat with this, right? And it's got the legacy of fantasy, because I never played fantasy competitively, but I imagine it was pretty wild. You used to play it a lot, didn't you?
Brutal.
I imagine it was pretty awful. That's how you met Brett, right? Playing at Warhammer World. That's how Flail started many years ago. But I imagine that wasn't a really fun experience. I imagine there's people taking super broken stuff.
It was, but it was again that kind of go through a couple of games and you find that point where you're happy. We maybe weren't, as being 15, 16-year-old lads, we weren't actively aware that was what we were doing. Whereas now, we able to just take a step back with twice the life experience. And make an informed decision on that.
Telly says it's an old man's land. It probably is an old man's land. He's playing old.
Did you see the team event I did about a month ago?
Yeah, I saw the picture you put. Who did I not recognise, by the way? There was someone. Was that
Pete? I think it was one you didn't recognise. JD was on that picture.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's so funny that he's
AD was one of the team guys. Used to be a playtester for back in 3rd edition.
Okay.
It's he's been doing it for so long, and then now he's just enjoying Warhammer again.
Yeah, nice. Adam says, fantasy's always been like this. I remember my Dark Elf list being Dark Riders, shooting magic and hydras. The strat was pop shot at you until you were weak, then run hydra through your lines. Only I would.
I own that list.
Funny nose game. There we go. That's the Liam of old. There we go.
I definitely didn't have magic and 50 skink. With 200 skinks,
Yeah. With fleece through the skinks.
Yeah.
Across the board, just everything.
And then the odd Stegodon just to smash. Yeah, no, that was definitely how Old World was.
I feel like in a bit of a middle ground of this conversation where part of me thinks that letting the players define the social contract is a rocky ground, because Liam, you make a really sensible, articulate case for it, but people are people, and you're relying on everyone having the same approach to you. So let's say me and you have readjusted our mentality to how you've talked about it there, and do you know what? We're playing in a group of people that it's not about just taking the strongest, most bent list possible. Instead, we take something that's a little bit more balanced, a bit more rounded. You're still relying on everyone's perception of what that looks like, and
we are.
You need everyone to trust to buy into that. But then I guess when we played D&D together in lockdown, I would put so much time and effort into making a good D&D campaign, and you would all endlessly mess around and constantly try and troll me, other than one person a week that would take it seriously. So I guess it's who you play with. You can find a group of people who are we're all playing it for the same reason and lock in.
And it's the same reason that the group I play board games with, so Tom, Mark, Phil, for Paul, who knows, we can't play cooperative board games together. We can't, because
we don't beat each other.
No one we can't dick each other over and be a pain in the arse. It's not what we enjoy as a group. So that group is competitive. And that's fine. If I'm playing Old World against that group, then we play a competitive game. And it's just what we know. We don't have to have that conversation anymore, because we know.
Yeah, it's an unwritten rule.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone's trying to smash each other.
But to add to it, and maybe go down another tangent, maybe too late, but we're talking about Funhammer, Adam's talking about the casual games that he's had at his event, and you're talking about making a casual league. The only way these things happen is if we talk about and suggest them. So if you have a TO in your local area, say to them, can we have a casual one where we as the players judge the lists beforehand and say yes or no? Funhammer works perfectly because it's a game of casual 40k players who there are big time competitive players there, and there are, fresh out of the daisy, just bought their Vanguard patrol box because the people who make the TOs have said, right, we're going to tune these armies down, and it works. If you go to one of the big tournaments, like the GTs, you're expecting to get your head kicked in if you don't play a proper list.
But the thing is, that's also the amount of effort, isn't it? So like a TO going through and making sure lists are legal is one thing. That's an awful lot of effort, having done that before. Having a TO go through lists and find out what they think is a little bit too strong, you're talking 3 or 4 times the work on top of making it sure they're legal.
But
like Adam, who's doing your events, is putting in so much effort into doing that a lot of TOs aren't going to do. Like, I run events each year. I'm never doing that. That sounds like far too much pain in the neck to do.
But conversely,
what we need is an algorithm.
If you were going
to AI.
Conversely, if you were going to put on a tournament like that, there's no because it's not, let's go and kill each other competitive. Why can you not get 3 or 4 players you trust to help you do that process? In 40k right now, we have people in the same tournament check everyone's list for legality. Our TO Luke does 0 list checking. Right, so I don't see why
he's too busy building terrain.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just, it's just back to that effort required. And like, I remember listening to an old podcast years ago. It was maybe a Dwellers Below or something like that, one of the Australian podcasts. And they used to do a lot of this community comp where you would submit your list in advance, it'd all get made public, and then you'd rate them on like a score.
Yeah.
And that added to your gaming score at the end, to tournament wise. And it was kind of like people would have such a varied score over the course of an event. Say you were rating each list out of 10. Some people would rate it a 5 in terms of being fairly soft, and some would rate it a 9. This is really hard because it's skewed by perception.
Yeah.
So getting people to check tournament lists are legal as a group is actually quite straightforward because you're all working within that same defined parameters. But as soon as you bring feelings or personal opinion into it and you try and spread that out, then you have people's different feelings and opinions, which kind of skew it. And what I might think is a little too good, someone else might not. And then you end up with unskewed lists at a fun event.
It's going to. I think it's just going to be like an evolving conversation as more games get played and the meta grows and it sort of establishes itself a bit more. But it feels like as a game system, as a rule system, it's probably going to be very different to other systems that we expect. So, like in my head, so I was I'm probably a bit naive actually thinking about it. When Old World came out. I kind of just assumed it would be very 40k-esque in terms of how it's managed and moderated in the competitive scene, just because that's what was played and what was used to. But like this chat and sort of just reflections is probably not going to be like that at all, is it? It's probably going to lean on the community a lot more, particularly in the first sort of like year or so when the focus is getting models out. And I imagine the team at GW are not really just focusing on that. Like there's what 3 factions that are out of like they're probably just, let's get these out, let's get people playing and let's get some feedback. Do you know what I mean? Let's get the ball rolling rather than right, what's the long-term competitive plan? Or even if there is a competitive plan, like maybe Old World sits outside of that, because for some of the challenges that we've talked about here, it's probably not mega suited off the bat to having a complex competitive
if you're looking at a comparison game in Games Workshop, look at Heresy. It's the same studio.
Yeah.
It's the similar mindset from the, not the designers, but the voices above. Like the boss of Old World is still the boss of Heresy. So it's in that same studio. And that's what you're going to look at. And Heresy has been out for 3 years. It's had a couple of campaign books, and that's it. A bunch of new techniques tanks.
I feel like it's just it's probably a smaller scene, isn't it, Heresy? But they do have it like LGT and stuff. There are like Heresy tournaments and stuff that kick off.
It comes back to the TO thing, and it's like TOs need to start saying what they want from that event.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying now, like let the game develop a little bit first.
Yeah.
But say this is going to be a narrative, funner event. Please tone your list down.
Yeah. Please
or
respect
this
that.
Is going to be a hard list. because it's like Rob was saying, like if you go to a 400-player GT, it's pretty clear what it's going to be.
Mm.
If you go into something called Funhammer, it's pretty clear what it's going to be. But the little RTT whatever shop on a Sunday for 3 games, maybe just guide your players how you want them to play.
That's a good shout. I like that. Telly says some people just haven't had Liam tell them how to be the way to be.
Yeah.
I think we should do a series of you just we should do like a YouTube series of Liam just being like,
make some shorts.
Yeah. Guys, I said we'd do an hour and we've done like an hour and a half. I'm just flagging.
We've still got one topic left.
Are we going to touch this topic quickly?
Yeah. I'm absolutely bursting for a wee.
Well, put the topic up and you go to Lou and we'll go through it with...
What, just leave the stream in your capable hands?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Brandon. You can trust me.
Yeah, you actually have no control on this side, so I'm safe unless you rock up. We are going to talk about now, how does this game compare to 40k, the game that shan't be named? Like, what's the experience like? I've probably had 6 games of Old World now, I reckon, since it's come out, and obviously played Fantasy forever ago. It definitely feels very Fantasy-esque. It's really bringing back to me the experience of playing that game and the kind of how it was quite nice to just think about one thing, and that is don't lose loads of stuff, kill as much of your opponents, rather than there's this mission and I'm rolling that, and there's just so many things to think about. So there is a pleasant. I've kind of reminded what it's like to play a rule set that isn't bloated by multiple different moving parts. But yeah, I wanted to hear from both of you what it's been like comparing it to other games and what your kind of experience has been. And Liam, on your end, particularly you've gone into a good bit of detail on the events, but particularly what those events have been like and how those games have been going in comparison to other stuff.
So I'll start on that, guest. So I've done 4 events since Old World's been released. I've got another one booked in July, and I'm on the reserve list for one I want to go to in August. And so I've done roughly one a month. I've probably played, in addition to tournaments, an average of 2 games a week since it's been released. Like, I've definitely used up a lot of wife points.
I was going to say, this is like the game that shan't be named era.
It's not quite that bad. We're doing like 10 games a week at that point.
That's getting silly.
But yeah, it definitely feels like Warhammer. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that this is, if you look at it like that, the most fun edition of Warhammer Fantasy, if you're going to call it, like I say, successor to that. I'm fairly sure that there are some bits I would personally change, but it's not enough to put me off. And I think some changes have been massively for the better. Like, my favourite version of the magic is this. I've said it before, that there's, when you had the power dice, spell dice, this pool of resources, it gave the illusion of skill and resource management, but really it was just complicated maths and maybe a little bit of bluffing. Because
Night. See you, mate.
Like, Shane went to bed an hour and a half ago. But yeah, so it gave the illusion of playing skill and math, but it was knowing what dice you could throw in what order to use to get the most effectiveness from what you had. It was maths. It wasn't playing the game.
It's not strategy, that is it, point. Really, if it goes too deep down that.
So this version of Magic definitely isn't that. It's 2 dice against 2 dice with some bonuses. But actually having the wizard in the right place is far more important than what you roll on those dice. It doesn't matter if I roll really poorly, needing 7s and 8s or 10s on my spells. If I'm outside of my energy spell range, I've got a level 4 wizard.
Yeah, fair.
It was a placement of getting my wizard into the right position which matters more than anything else, and in a game which should be won and lost in the movement phase. It's brilliant.
How do you, and Rob, you can jump in on this as well, because I'm always interested in the CP thing. Does it miss any reroll mechanics? Because like one thing people love or hate about 40k is the CP reroll.
So definitely no. Like the CP reroll is a trap anyway, and you shouldn't be using it in 40k. But the 40k is much more, I'm going to combat, I'm going to roll 60 or even 70 dice with my Arco frags, compared to, I don't think it's possible to get above 20 attacks on a single unit in a frontage. I might be wrong, but like having rerolls, you don't have full rerolls, which is a good thing, but the old world feels a bit more tactical because it doesn't have all of those rerolls, right? You don't have if you were to take a 40k army and put it into the old world, it would be whoever charges wins, because the person in defense would never have a model left to survive.
Oh yes, so such a brutal game,
right?
40k.
So because it doesn't have those level of rerolls, because it doesn't have that dice spam attack, is why the game works. And to be fair, if you look back at 8th, where there was step up, where there was, my Lizardmen were going in with 4 attacks each, the opponent was getting so badly mauled that they couldn't fight me anyway, was one of the reasons why people didn't want to play that game, and why, it became the game that we know, and they moved it to Age of Sigmar. So I'm fully on board with, I like being able to re-roll ones because it adds a bit more consistency, but it's not actually game breaking. And
like you're saying, so like re-roll ones, there might be that time when you roll 4 ones and you get to re-roll 4 dice for a unit of quarrelers.
Yeah.
If you're shooting 10 quarrelers or 15 quarrelers, you're getting 1 or 2 ones on averages, and then you're probably hitting on 5s anyway.
Yeah.
So it adds a little bit of niceness, but it's maybe 1 more hit.
Yeah, how much of 40k is hitting on 3s re-rolling 1s, or hitting on 2s re-rolling 1s? You're just like, oh my god, we may as well just say everything's it.
I saw a tweet from Mikey at the weekend. He was playing at a GT, Hellstorm Gaming, and he was like, I've got 60 attacks, hitting and wounding on 2s. Do you want me to roll the dice?
Yeah, I'm
like, what's the point?
You've been there, Paul, when I've said this, I don't need to roll this, and you're just dead.
Yeah, it's just dead. Yeah, it's dead. Well, that's the phrase in 40k. Do you want me to take it off? Just like, just take it off. Because like, I played a GT the other week, and the amount of time people were like, I'm just gonna take it off if that's all right. And you're like, yeah, fine, okay, yeah, I'm dead.
Telly's asked the question, which I have to answer here. Why do Liam and me both love dwarves so much? Aggressively competitive men out. What's the hook with dwarves? I'm going to tell you, I picked the wrong army. Right? I actually don't think dwarves was the army I should have picked. You know me, I'm someone who likes melee. I like punching people in the face. And I can't, for the love of Christ, I cannot get this dwarf army to feel right in melee. Yes, I will win the occasional game, but I don't enjoy the dwarf army the way I thought I was going to. And originally, the dwarf army was the army I played with back in the day. I kind of wish I'd picked something like ogres or something else that was a bit more melee. Maybe this troll army that you're playing, that you're saying you're enjoying, might be the way I should have gone. So I love dwarves for the aesthetic. I love iron breakers, but I'm not enjoying the army the way I thought I was going to.
What does Rob need to play, Liam? Sell him. What should he pick up?
Oh, it's what you want to. This is one weird thing. It's like, I have very little problem with melee dwarfs. I quite like the list, but it requires a very specific play style and knowledge of matchups. And I don't mean matchups as in what's on one side table versus mine as a whole. It's very specific unit by unit matchups. If you don't get deployment right with dwarfs, especially if you are trying to use runic banners to shift the fights in your favor, then you aren't going to win any games. It's a point where they will really struggle. But if you can pick the fights and get ahead of people, which is, again, this is using marching column, an anvil, and drilled.
Yeah.
If you can use that combination of rules, you can actually pick fights so much better. So, like, a unit of dwarf warriors is about 200 points, with for 20 of them with full command and shields. If you can, and drilled, and if you marching column them 9 inches forward, followed by an anvil getting them another 9 inches forward, you're only 6 inches from your opponent. They've got the choice of coming to fight you, in which case you've got shield wall. You're going to fall back, use that fall back to go into a proper fighting rank and be there for the following turn, ready to get something else in. Or you're going to do it with, my favourite one is hammers with the, is it Mastering Hesitation? The one that stops them getting charge bonuses? Like literally walking them forward and going 1 inch away from my opponent. Do you want to fight? Do you want to charge? Because I'm happy to take the charge. And just kind of.
Liam, how do they get the where do they reform in that then? When they fall back in good order, they can do a free reform.
If you give ground, because it's a move, you can use drilled to
it's drilled.
Rechange your shape.
Yeah, it's a drilled.
And if you fall back in good order, which you aren't going to do because of shield wall, then it's a fallback, which means you can then auto rally at the end and reform. So you get it that way as well. So no matter what, with a unit of dwarfs, unless you've actually broken properly, as in rolled above your leadership on the break test, then you get the rejig of your unit into a fighting formation.
Can I ask you? Before we wrap things up? Can I ask you a rules question? Now there's a new segment called Rules Corner. Are you ready for Rules Corner?
I'll try.
I'll have a theme tune next time. A unit. Imagine a chunky unit, and it's been charged in the front by a big block of men-at-arms. Okay, hit them, and then the unit also gets charged in the flank by Knights of the Realm.
Yeah.
In lance formation. The unit that is charged falls back in good order and goes back 7 inches. The two units
can't go back 7 inches. On
whatever. I just made that up. It just goes back. It goes forward back. It goes back 5 inches. I think it was 5 inches, right? Then both units follow up. Basically, they don't restrain. They pursue. Do they then, like, say the men at arms go first? They just go in a straight line and hit the unit. The Knights of the Realm, when they follow up, does the lance go side on and they stay in the flank? Because when we did it the other night, the men at arms went up and could hit, but then the Knights were like, well, they couldn't move, they couldn't get there. There's no way they could have got there. And if I went first with the Knights, I would have blocked the men at arms. So I was just like, what do we do? So me and Stephen just chunked them along. We probably did it wrong.
One or other, mate.
Well, that's not very good, is it? Sorry, Stephen.
Why? He's baited you into a trap.
Don't try and make out that it was a tactical genius. So you have to pick one of those units, and they go a straight line. What? So they go towards the unit, right?
You fall back from the unit with the highest unit strength, I think. I check the rules.
Yeah, no, I think that's
you
right.
fall back directly from the centre of the unit with the biggest unit strength.
Yeah, we did that.
And then you do them in the order that you do them in. And if one of them blocks, one of them's blocked.
All right, that's annoying. The Knights
But
should have just stood there then.
if you're multi-charging with multiple units, I would hope that you line it up in such a way that you double their unit strength. So if it's got like a unit of 20 Dark Elf Warriors, presuming this is from your game on Wednesday, and you've got a big unit of men-at-arms, maybe 30.
Yeah, 32. Well, a few died.
A unit of Knights in the flank that's got a unit strength of 12, 15, 16, something like that. But after that combat, you're probably outnumbering him 2 to 1. So he wouldn't fall back in good order.
They had stubborn.
Nah, fair enough.
So stubborn auto fall back in good order. Yeah, I think you had stubborn, Stephen. So okay. So the Knights, the sort of unit that had charged the flank, the Knights of the Realm, when they did their move, that's the amount of inches that they can legally move, right? So they have to wheel and sort of shuffle along. Okay, that's worth knowing. Thanks. Do you have any rules questions, Rob?
You get the full. I think you don't wheel as much. You get like a pivot or something around your centre to chase.
It wouldn't have been ideal. It was Blackguard, yeah.
I would just like a recommendation on a fast melee army because I want to be able to. I don't want to have to do the thingies. I want to be picking the charges from like.
You're not allowed to play Bretonians. Get lost.
Okay, so not Bretonians,
no,
but a fast melee.
So
what else?
You've got a choice of either a cavalry army.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at ones that do that well. Obviously, you've got Bretonian. I think Bretonians, High Elves. Bretonians, High Elves are probably your best two if you wanted a cavalry army. But if you wanted to go into the armies of infamy, then you've got Cetra's army out of the Tomb King one, which is chariot based. You've got the Nomadic War from the Orc and Goblin one, which is fantastic fun. You've got no control over it after turn one.
Okay, so that's definitely not me then.
Yeah,
because it's all impetuous and moves like 15 inches a turn, so you have no control over it.
Can you imagine?
And if you wanted to go, like, you can do it with monstrous infantry, so you could do ogres.
Yes,
you could do trolls. Like trolls with a spell to give them +2 inches move in like a big bubble. So you just run your troll 16 inches forward turn one, and you're like, okay, what are you gonna do now?
Let's go.
There are like Chaos can do the mounted army pretty well. Like knights, and again, if you wanted Games Workshop models that you can buy now, Age of Sigmar knights, fantastic. Well, we've had those new Dracoff come out. That's your Marauder cavalry.
Yeah.
That's an easy win.
The Chaos Knights, they're some of the best models. Was it the Vanguard?
I bet you Paul's got an army he'd be prepared to sell you. Just need to
I actually sold it. After you made me buy it. Spent hundreds of pounds. I sold it last year. I've got Deepkin sat there, but no Chaos. The Chaos have all gone, I'm afraid.
Wait. Can I make Bretonian out of Deepkin and have a...
Don't play Bretonians, please.
There's no reason why not.
Is there
Yeah, he's not allowed to play Bretonians. That's the reason why.
Is there a big model that I can use the turtle for as a monster that's on a similar base? Because
sure, it's got Lisbon. Maybe that could be a dragon. Maybe that could be a dragon of whatever faction.
I've already played Lisbon though. I kind of.
If you wanted to use Idenef,
yeah.
So you're looking at sharks, eels.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Cavalry army seems quite good from them, right?
So we've got Glade Riders as core. You've got Wild Riders and Sisters of the Fawn as specials. They're both fantastic units.
No, he's not allowed to play Wood Elves. That's
I don't know what you do with the turtle. I really don't know what you do with the turtle.
I need the turtle.
It's going to be the dragon.
The turtle's the key model.
Lads, I said we'd do an hour. We've done an hour, nearly 2 hours.
2 hours.
I appreciate you both. Unless there's any other parting comments or bits you want to mention. Oh, I keep forgetting.
I've looked at the rules. Rob was 100% right. Literally, move one unit in, but you get to do a change facing before you make a follow-up move. So you could, in theory, angle them a way where you still hit the unit, but maybe don't block yourselves in.
Yeah.
But it's difficult sometimes.
So both could try it, but you just pick one at a time. Or you could...
Yeah, you do one first, then you do the other.
Okay, so it's it'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Depends how big your lance is, but yeah.
Could everyone please like the video if you enjoyed the content, and if you don't subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. I've not really done much selling. This was more of just like, let's just jump on and do chill old world chat rather than like, welcome to the
what is the problem?
Telly said in the thing you've got Empire as well. Empire Knights as core, Demiglyph Riders.
Or Bear Cavalry.
Maybe a War Altar in there.
He'll just get cannons again. Adam,
no, I kind of want the idea of this turtle now. It's got in my brain into the grey matter.
Just do a sea themed. What was was an Empire state that was based around marshlands? Was it Stirland? something like that.
We'll have to work something out, Paul, for your army and your cupboard. I'll do some painting of your other models or something.
You can have it, mate. It's all sat down there. Yeah, there's all sorts in there. It's like 2,000 point Deepkin army. I think I've got knocking around. Adam keeps unliking and disliking the videos.
Well, so
I'm watching you, Adam.
Let's say I see you commenting on my video. Like and subscribe, everyone. Join the membership. But in all honesty, come to the Discord. This kind of chat has been going on in the Old World channel.
Discord.
And you can get involved as well. You can answer questions that we might do in future events.
Got Rob doing a bit of pitching.
You know, I'm help you out.
Oh, you're a good lad. Telly says it could be an Empire land ship.
I'm all up for ideas. Put it in the Discord. This is my thing. I want to build and paint.
I like this. I'm selling my Deepkin. You paint some models for me, Rob. Will you paint me an out? Will you finish off my Space Marines?
You know I will. I can do that.
My Spash Marines. Yeah, but I don't want you to just spray them white and then dip them.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Be like, I finish your Space Marines, I'll get them. I'll be like, well, you could say that, Rob.
You've seen the rap.
I'm joking. I'm winding you up. Boys, appreciate you both loads. That was really fun chat. I appreciate people that have joined us live and people that haven't joined us live. Oh yeah, I need to timestamp I'll timestamp the videos. Hope I don't cause too much controversy. I have changed the thumbnail in all that. I did change the thumbnail as we were doing that somehow. Managed to change it. So it now says how to play versus Scream. Will that cause less controversy? Is that fine?
Less controversy.
Yeah,
fine.
I like that.
Fine. Boys, well, you two hang about because I'll chat to you on the link that I've got you on. But thanks so much for joining us today, my friends, lads. Appreciate you. Oh, cheers, Tilly. You're a kind lad. Maybe let's do some Helldivers now, Telly, if you're up for a bit of Helldivers, mate. Let's do a bit of Muff Divers. I texted Telly the other night. It says, Georgia says, I'm good for muff diving. But obviously that's what we call Helldivers. And Telly was like, that's an unusual text. George is fine if I do some muff diving. That's what he said. And he was like, oh, he's 4 pints in. Telly's 4 in. Oh, boy. Me and Telly can have
in the Discord.
I'm going to have to catch up. All right, Telly, I'll see you on PlayStation.
I don't think mine's installed at the minute, but let's do it.
Get it installed, boys. Get it installed and come play Helldivers with me, Telly. Right, boys, appreciate you loads. Thanks for watching, folks. I haven't got any exit music for Old World, so I'll just hum and end it.
Let us.